When scientists attach electrodes to the human scalp and play an audio recording of Quranic recitation, the brain reacts. Even in subjects who have never heard it, measurable, distinct changes ripple through their neural pathways. This raises a fascinating mechanical question about human biology. What exactly is happening inside the brain when it processes the acoustics of this ancient text? To find out, researchers use tools like electroencephalography and magnetoencephalography, EEG and MEG. These devices measure the faint electromagnetic fields generated by our neurons, allowing scientists to look through the skull and record brain activity in real time. In 2025, a major systematic review attempted to synthesize what these machines recorded over the years. Researchers screened over 200 scientific papers to isolate 22 specific EEG studies. These experiments focused exclusively on human subjects listening to Quranic recitation in controlled environments. The data from these studies pulls the conversation out of the realm of anecdotal spiritual experiences. We are looking at a globally documented neurobiological event that demands rigorous scientific examination. In a foundational 2015 study, researchers placed headphones on participants, played them verses from the Quran, and recorded the resulting brain activity. The EEG readings showed an immediate shift. The machines recorded increased theta wave activity, spreading across the entire scalp. Simultaneously, the researchers observed a second distinct pattern. Alpha wave activity became heavily concentrated in the frontal region of the brain. In neuroscience, alpha and theta brainwaves are established markers. They are the specific electrical patterns associated with a state of relaxed wakefulness, sharp attention, and deep meditation. These laboratory measurements align with physiological outcomes in the physical body. A separate review examined 28 distinct studies involving over 2,100 people. Many of these subjects were tested in highly distressing environments. They were patients preparing for surgery, undergoing medical procedures, or recovering in intensive care units. Across these studies, patients exposed to Quranic recitation experienced measurable drops in physical anxiety levels compared to their baselines. The electrical wave shifts mapped in the laboratory reliably translate into a physical stress relief response in high-anxiety, real-world scenarios. This raises a variable that a 2026 study decided to test: cultural bias. Researchers wanted to know if this calming effect was simply the result of familiar religious conditioning. They gathered 29 healthy adults and divided them into two groups. 14 were practicing Muslims, and 15 were non-Muslims with no prior exposure to the text. Using simultaneous MEG and EEG scanners, the researchers recorded synchronized gamma activity across deep brain networks in both groups. These specific networks are the biological hardware responsible for critical human functions like memory processing, language, and emotional regulation. The non-Muslim participants did not understand the Arabic language. They had no cultural familiarity with the text. Yet their brains exhibited widespread, measurable responses identical to the Muslim subjects. The physiological reaction to the audio does not strictly depend on pre-existing faith. The data points toward a universal acoustic or neurological trigger. The data presents a compelling picture of a relaxing stimulus, but we have to ask a more critical question. Do these results prove there is something neurologically unique about the Quran itself? A 2022 review in the journal Helion introduces a crucial counterpoint. The neural mechanisms engaged by the recitation heavily overlap with familiar acoustic inputs, like instrumental music, rhythmic auditory stimulation, and secular meditation. A separate controlled surgical trial tested this directly. This chart compares anxiety reduction levels across 3 distinct groups: patients listening to the Quran, patients listening to nature sounds, and a silent control group. The Quran definitively reduced anxiety compared to silence. However, it did not significantly outperform the nature sounds statistically. The 2025 systematic review adds one final critical scientific caveat to the literature. Out of the 22 EEG studies analyzed, 20 were judged to have a high risk of experimental bias. The calming neurological effect is real, and it is measurable. But looking strictly at the current scientific data, we cannot yet prove it is an exclusively Quranic phenomenon. For millions of people worldwide, Quranic recitation is a supreme source of spiritual peace. That is a profound lived reality, regardless of what an EEG machine records in a laboratory. The scientific literature leaves us with an open question about where this measurable calming effect truly originates. It could be a mechanical response to the mathematical acoustic rhythm and structured breathing patterns of the Arabic language. It could stem from psychology, the deeply ingrained comfort of personal belief and lifelong faith. Science can perfectly measure the electrical activity lighting up a scanner, and it can track the reduction of stress hormones in the bloodstream. But whether that healing effect comes from rhythm, meaning, belief, or something we simply do not understand yet, remains an enduring mystery.